Alright, how's it going, y'all? So I've gotten a ton of requests recently to redo my WordPress tutorial for DSM7, and this time around we're actually going to be doing this, in my opinion, what's the right way, because we're going to be doing this all manually, which is going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to mean that we get all the features that we want, and that we have easy ability to do multiple sites and things like that. And so this is going to be a tutorial on how to install WordPress on Synology NAS and get up and running hosting, all without really too many issues whatsoever. We're going to be doing this manually, so it's also going to be really good to get an understanding for how databases work and just overall how web hosting works. So this is going to be a bit of a longer tutorial, but this should have everything you need to know. All right, and so first off, let's just talk about what you need to do to set up this tutorial. And you're going to need a few things. The first thing you're going to need is a DNS address. Basically, you're going to need a website name that you need to register. For me, I love using Google domains, so I use Google domains to host spacerex.co. But you're just going to need to pick and get a web domain. You can use the Synology one if you'd like, but I would highly recommend setting up your own manually because it's going to be very nice to have. And that way, this is what people are going to use to access your website. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need to have the ability to do port forwarding on your router if you want to set this up to be a public website. And so what that means is you're going to have to go through and enable port forwarding on your router, which means you actually cannot have what's called CGNAT or carrier grade NAT. You need your own IP address. So if you've got CGNAT, you're not going to be able to do this. You'd have to go through a VPN and have that. It's just going to be a huge pain. And then finally, you're also going to need Synology. Now, one thing I would also recommend doing is don't host your business website on this if it's crucial. This should be designed as a way to learn, but I would highly recommend paying AWS a couple of bucks a month. It's like $4 a month. That's where I host spacerex.co. And it's just going to be a lot more secure. It's going to have a lot more uptime, and you're not going to have as many issues. Because right now, if your Synology turns off or if your internet goes out, nobody can reach your website. And as a business owner, that's not a good thing. It's totally fine for personal use, but just think about that. All right, and so now the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is set up our domain name to point back to our home's IP address. Now, if you already have DDNS figured out, you can skip this set on to the next one. But if you don't, we're going to go ahead and do kind of a very simple setup here that should work with whoever you have your domain through. So first thing you're going to want to do is open up Control Panel, then go into External Access, and click DDNS. And so I have this one already set up. It's very easy, just add one and put in your information here. I can only do one here, but pretty much just set up a DDNS for your Synology. Very, very, very easy to go ahead and do. And I'll go ahead and just edit this one to show you the basic settings. So right here, this is what yours should look like. Basically, it should just point to your home's IP address. And if you want to, we can even get a Let's Encrypt certificate. But in this case, we're not going to do that because we're actually just using this as a place on the internet to point to. And so what we're doing here is we are creating an IP address. For me, it's going to be testbed123.synology.me. And it is going to always point to my home's IP address. And so that way, anybody who goes there will be pointed to my home's router. And the other thing is, this address will update as soon as our IP address changes. And so that means if your power goes out and your router boots up, it's going to get a new IP address from your ISP, unless you have a static IP address, but most people don't. So it's going to boot up every single time and get a new IP address. And so what this means is every time that happens, this testbed123.synology.me will automatically redirect to our new IP address. And so then we're going to have a third thing pointing at testbed. And so that's going to be our actual web name. And so now you need to go into DNS settings for wherever you're hosting your website, wherever you have that through. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that really quickly with Google Domains. And you're just going to want to go into the DNS settings. And so this is going to be different for every single person you've got. But if you've got Google DNS, all you're going to do. So if you don't know what you're doing and you've got it through a provider or something, you're going to want to just say, I want a CNAME to whatever it is. So let's just go ahead and create a new custom record. And we're just going to add another one. Create a new custom record down here. We'll call it video. So this is just going to be the precursor. So basically video.spacerex.co is going to be the address of our website. Most people will be doing www. But as you can see, www.spacerex.co leads you to my website. Check it out. And so we're instead going to be using video.spacerex.co. And now we're going to select a C name. And so really a C name is just a pointer. So it's going to be pointing to testbed123.synology.me. And so what this is doing is anytime somebody types in video.spacerex.co into their browser, they're going to be told, oh, that's over actually at testbed123.synology.me. You don't ever actually see testbed123, but it's what your computer is using to figure out where video.spacerex.co is. And so then that leads to your home's IP address. And so now, if we were to type in on a DNS record, it can take a little while to update, video.spacerex.co, you should see my home's IP address. And you can always do a DNS check if you want to. I'm not going to do that now because it's going to take a minute to propagate. So now that is done. So step 1 is done. And so now step 2 depends on if you want to set this up as a public or a private website. If you want it to be public, where anybody outside your home's network can access it, comes with a little bit of security implications, but WordPress is pretty decently secure. Then you're going to want to open up ports 443 and 80 to your NAS. So you're going to have to look up how to do port forwarding on your individual router, and you're going to want to set that up. I've already gone and done that here. All right, so now once you've gone through and forwarded those ports, now let's go ahead and start downloading some stuff. So we're going to go ahead and open up the package center, and we're going to download quite a few things. We're going to first need to install WebStation. All right, then you're going to want to also install Apache 2.2. Then let's see here, what else are we going to need? MariaDB 10. And so now you're going to need to create a DB password. So go ahead and create a strong one here. And go ahead and just enter in a password here. This is going to be your root password. All right, and so finally, once that installs, we're also going to need to go down and find good old PHP 7.2. And then we'll also just go ahead and install phpMyAdmin. And so phpMyAdmin allows us to manage our database very easily. All right, and so as you can see down here, we could have been installing WordPress just directly from here, which pretty much does a lot of the stuff manually that we're doing, just automatically, but it does not teach you what you're doing, and it ends up being very, very, very hard to change anything after the fact. So instead, it's a lot easier just to set it up the right way and go from there. All right, and so now that all that stuff is gone ahead and set up, we also need to go to wordpress.org and go ahead and say get WordPress and hit download on it right here. I've already gone ahead and done that. And we're just going to need to upload it to our Synology somehow. So now we'll go ahead and see that in our package center, we've got web folder. So we can go ahead and we've got a couple of different options here. We'll set this up as a multi-site WordPress instance. So that way it's really easy if you want to add in a multiple multi-site later on, it's really easy to just add in. So we're just going to go ahead and say WordPress 1 as a folder, or you could do whatever. If you only are going to have one WordPress site and another site, you can just change the names, but we're going to call it WordPress 1. We're going to take that downloaded folder and just drop it in here. And the other thing I should have done is I actually need to go through, once this is done uploading, I'm going to need to copy all the stuff up one level because I have a WordPress folder in a WordPress folder. But while that is uploading to your computer, let's go ahead and open up phpMyAdmin. So now log in, we're going to have the username be root and the password be that password you set up for the database. And so now we've got the ability to handle all the database operations in the world that we would ever want. It's just a really nice and easy web interface for our database. All right, and so now we just need to go ahead and create a basic WordPress database. And so our single Synology can host multiple databases inside of it. And so for every single WordPress website we set up, we're gonna wanna have a different database for it. All right, and so now we just need to go ahead and create a new database for our WordPress site. So we'll just go ahead and hit new, and we'll call it WP01. So just WordPress number 1. It's just easier that way if you have another WordPress site later on to just have it like this. and just go ahead and hit create. And so that's all we need to do, because we don't want to go through and mess with this database at all, because WordPress will do this automatically. So now we just need to go ahead and create a new user. And so we're going to go back into home, hit user accounts, and we are going to hit new. And so we will once again call this WP01U, WordPress 01 user. And so this is just super easy. We're going to say only localhost can access it because, well, our Synology is the one accessing it. Then password, what I actually do is I actually go ahead and open up Notes or text edit. And I just mash some keys. And that looks to be a strong password to me. The one thing I would not do is don't add any too special characters. So like no percents, because WordPress can be weird about that stuff, and just paste it in there. It's going to be pasted in plain text anyway, so I wouldn't have it be one of your own passwords, but however you want to generate the password. Oh, there's also this generate password button. Oh well, mine was just as secure, right? And so now we'll just go ahead and hit go down here. All right, so now if we go back into the overall page and hit the user account and select him right here, we're gonna hit edit privileges and then just choose the database. And so we're going to give him full access to right here. So double click on it, hit go, and we are going to grant all privileges to this. So he will fully control this guy right here. And now we've got the whole database stuff set up. It's actually not as bad as you think, because WordPress does a lot of it for you. By now, this upload should be done, hopefully. So now we just need to go ahead and copy everything in here and move it up one folder. So we're going to just move it up to the actual root of the WordPress 1 site that we set up, and we'll have it overwrite. All right, and so now we should be all good to go. So now that is all set up. We now have all the information in the WordPress site. The other thing we need to do is we need to delete this index.txt right there, because it is actually going to have issues if you don't do that. So we're going to set up as a WordPress multi-site. All right, so now everything's in place. We can go ahead and actually open up Web Hoster, WebStation. All right, and so now we're going to go into Web Service Portal, and we're going to go ahead and create a new one. And it'll be a service portal, and it will be a virtual host. So this one will be our actual website. So it's going to be video.spacerex.co. And that is all you need to do. And so this is going to be anytime somebody types video.spacerex.co, it's going to get directed to this site. And for document root, we're going to go ahead and select the folder that we set up for WordPress 1. And so for PHP, we are going to do 7.2. And then keep everything else the same, except we're going to change Apache to 2.2. And so now we need to go ahead and figure out what extensions we need. So we're going to go into script language extensions and hit create on it. Well, you can actually just edit the default, or you can just say WordPress as the profile. And for PHP version, we're going to be doing PHP 7.4 because that's what WordPress is recommending right now, PHP 7.4. And now we're going to need to hit extensions. And so this right here is the list of extensions we are going to need. So pretty much everything you see right here, add. This is going to be sped through. All right, so this is my second time doing this, so I'm sure I screwed this up and forgot something, but if you want to look at this, just scrolling down, these are all the ones I clicked and it should work. As long as you have these two up here and JSON is automatically in there, you should be good to go. Or if you just want to get mad and hit all of them, I think think that's fine too. It'll just be a little bit slower. All right, so now I just went through and we have this WordPress one. So now we just need to go back in and edit this guy right here again. And we are going to change the profile to be WordPress. And then we're good. So we're just gonna go ahead and hit Control Panel, Shared Folder, Web, Edit, and we're going to say Permissions, and then hit Local Groups. The HTTP, we're actually going to change it to Read Write, and hit Save. So now we should just be able to go ahead and open up our WordPress site and put in all the information we need. So for the database, remember that was WP01, right there. So we're gonna say WP01. And the username was WP01 user. Then paste in that password you had, and then leave the local host to be the host because that's where we're starting it, and then the prefix as well. And now, boom, we are good to go, and let's just hit run the installation. So now site title, we can name it whatever we'd like to. And then for username, we'll just give us a username. And then for password, I'm just going to paste in that password because, well, that's all I'm doing it right now. And then choose a secure password, obviously. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and use my email address here, and we'll say that search engines can search it. And now it's just gonna go ahead and install it for us. It may take a minute, but we should be good to go afterwards. Now that this is running, by the way, we need to go ahead and just let this do its thing, and we're going to go ahead and get an SSL certificate. So now we need to go into SSL, and we're going to go into Security, Certificate, and Add. And we're going to hit Add New Certificate, and we're going to get from Let's Encrypt. And so if you've got these ports open, we should be good to go. So we're going to generate from Let's Encrypt, and then we're going to say for WordPress. And we're just going to generate a Let's Encrypt certificate for every single one. So we're going to type in video.spacerex.co, whatever your domain name is, and then put in your email address. And that's it. Now we hit done. And this is going to fail because I actually don't have this open to the public. But if you do have ports 80 and 443 open, you will get a Let's Encrypt certificate. All right, and so mine failed because I don't actually have it open to the public, but you should have a certificate right here that is your Let's Encrypt one. So now we can go ahead and hit action on it and hit edit. And so we're going to choose the video WordPress one right here. And so that way, anytime somebody goes to video.spacerex.co, they will get given that certificate. Therefore, they know that everything's properly encrypted. And that's all there is to it. Now we'll have an SSL certificate and we can perform SSL redirects. Been going back and forth here a lot just because some of the stuff takes a little while. Now it's finally gone ahead and fully installed WordPress, and now we can just go ahead and log in. And so you should be redirected to video.spacerex.co or whatever your site is, and hit go. If you get brought to your router homepage or something gets messed up, you may have to access it directly because you don't have what's called NAT lookback on your router. But boom, we have WordPress up and running now. And so it has even gone through and automatically set up a Let's Encrypt redirect. And so you can see right here that we have a SSL certificate. You can see it's self-signed, but it's fine. It's just for my home one. If you had gotten the proper one and opened up those ports, you would have full SSL access. And so now it's just WordPress. And so you can go ahead and install nice, pretty plugins, appearances, themes. Let's just go ahead and install this one right here. This is the 22 version, the 2022 version. You can install as many themes as you like, mess around with it. It's all you. And let's just go ahead and save it, just making something up. And so now if we actually go to the site, we should see right here that it is SpaceRex says hello world. And that is all there is to it. You can go ahead and just create your own website like this, and that's how I've got my domain set up. WordPress is very easy to go ahead and get running. Then if you ever need to get into the admin page, just go ahead and hit WP-admin at the end of your site, and you'll be brought into the login page. And that is all there is to it. The complete exhaustive guide to WordPress and how to do it properly on your Synology NAS. All right, well, that is going to be it for this. This is going to be a long video edit because there is so much stuff here. But now we have a WordPress site fully up and running. And we have so much flexibility here, all running off of our Synology NAS. I hope this was also a really good way to kind of learn how databases work and things like that, and just really understand what web hosting is all about. All right, well, that's going to be it for this. Go and leave any other tutorials you'd like to see me make in the comments below. Subscribe, do what every other video says do at the end of them, and do that. All right, have a good one. Bye.